and welcome. Hello. Welcome to Jessica and the Rainbow in Rainbowland, episode 11. This is my first one that I am filming in advance. So let me take you over to my keyboard station and let's play the opening song. Not on the keyboard. One, two, three. Rainbow, family, friends. We're all friends in a rainbow world. Rainbow, family of friends. We're rainbow friends. All right. So, today we're going to start with the music lesson, and for the music lesson, I'm going to use my little keyboard station. We're going to learn today about the key of G. So, you may remember that we were doing the key of C before, and here's a C. It's just next to the two black keys. I see it's backwards in my video viewfinder. So all you really need to know is this, since I can't, since I'm doing this one here and I can't edit too many clips together, but I will just explain it to you and then I will show you it visually at the end of the explanation. So here's a C, and I know it doesn't look like a C because it's backwards in this frame, but just bear with me. Bear with me. So a C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C is the scale that uses all the white keys. And we've talked about that in other episodes, but feel free to go back and check them out. But what we're going to do today, if you remember Circle of Fifths from yesterday, a C is the key with no black keys, or the scale with no black keys. And then a G, or the G scale, or the key of G, that's the key with one black key added. So it just gets one level more difficult. So what I'm going to show you now, I'm going to stop this and then flip it around, and I'm going to show you how the chords would work in the key of G. So that one F sharp is actually going to end up, oh my goodness, it's backwards, sorry guys. That one F sharp is going to end up in multiple places, so here we go. Okay, so there's the G, sorry, looking at the screen, not my hand. And you remember how we play a chord like that, and then you move over. That's the next chord, and then here's where it's going to affect you. See how that F is right there? You're going to play the F sharp instead. And then here's the next chord. And here's the next chord. See, same thing, that F. Next chord. Next chord. Here's that F. And then I ran out of keys. This pinky is a D. Pretend that's there. So that's the key of G. And so if you were going to make up a song in the key of G, or say you wanted to play Imagine in the key of C, I don't know if you remember from many episodes ago, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C is the key of C, and G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G is the key of G, but we also talked about transposing. So if I was playing Imagine from many days ago, or I even showed you a little bit about how to do it that way. And it actually has fancy things, but let's leave that out. So now to transpose it, erase, 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 erase all of that, and now pretend we're going to play this song in a totally different spot. We're going to play it in what's called the key of G. And if you were on a website like ultimateguitar.com, you would just push this button that says transpose. You'd push it like 7 times to get up to this key. And now you can play the song here. And you'd be like, imagine there's no problem. And you see how right now I was playing a chord on the G as the lowest note, and then I moved up to the chord with the C on the lowest note. Back when we were in the key of C, erase, 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 it was a C chord, and then we went up 1, 2, 3, 4 to the F chord, and then we were going back and forth between those two. Whereas now, erase, 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 now that we're in this G scale that has that F sharp in it, we're here on the G chord, then we're up 1, 2, 3, 4, here on the C chord. And that's why they sound the same. So, or that's why they sound like you can sing with it, you just have to sing higher. So it's the same ratios, it's the same distances between each other. And so, yeah, that's how you transpose. That's a very basic example. And I'm going to stop this and turn around and show you my face again. Bye. All right, so the next thing for today is I'm going to do the Doodle Share. So the Doodle Share for today is going to be this doodle that I figured out very recently and I was very excited about. I'll go sit over in this little doodle chair. And I'm just going to doodle it on my script today because I don't know what I did with that notebook. Oh, here it is. All right, so here's a notebook. I was using it to teach some piano students. So for today, you're going to learn how to make a butterfly out of 2 hearts. So here we go. So this is the little butterfly, and here we go. I'm going to show you how to make him. So you take 1 heart, and then the other heart, the tip of the heart is going to poke up through the top, like that. And I think one time when I made it, I did put like a little body in the middle of him. I don't know how I feel about that. And then give it some little antennas. And that's the doodle heart. I think at one time I did do it more like that, where you like filled in, and then it went kind of from the center like that, you know, something more like that, although that's lopsided, but that seemed to work too, because then that just creates the middle of it, and you just got to make sure you start the point up high enough when you're coming through like that. Okay, so I'll do it one more time. So heart, heart. A little sloppy because I'm paying attention to too many things. Oh yeah, I didn't do it that time. I didn't do the line in the middle. Well, you get the idea. So there you go. There's my little heart butterfly. Yeah. Okay, so not doing this live is actually helping me move a lot faster because I'm not so distracted by myself and by seeing who's showing up and who maybe isn't able to today. So this is helpful for me. I'm very affected by distractions. So I'm not able to be the person I want to be, unfortunately, when I'm in environments that are distracting for me. And so whether that's on a stage or apparently now I've learned whether that's live streaming, it's true if I'm babysitting. I imagine it'd be true if I had kids. I very much struggle to be the me that I feel like I am inside when there are different distractions. If they're very quiet distractions, I can handle them, like there's a bird outside the window and it's very cute. But even so, then I still just brought it into the video. So me with like 10 different people popping in and out from a live stream is a little intense for me and maybe for you. Anyway, here, today's show and tell. I'll put the little title cards in later. That was just a random little segment. I'll push stop. Okay, today's show and tell is my plants. I'm just going to show you all my plants. Here's these 2 little guys. Brooklyn and Sullivan painted these pots. They also made me these little guys that we can put in them. I think this one says Sully somewhere on it. There it is. That one says Brooklyn. This I've had since I first moved to my own apartment a while ago. That's a long while ago. I won't tell that story here. Not feeling it. These 2 guys are kind of not doing super well, so I put them by each other so they can be pals. Yeah, a money tree. And I don't even remember what the other one's called. It's like they're growing a lot, but they're very wobbly how they're growing. Don't seem super happy. This one's very happy. This is the one that made me want to do this segment. That one's from my mama. She does great with plants. Let's find some more plants. I suppose I could just show the plants in this room. Yeah, I have a lot of plants, but well, why am I rushing? I'm not trying to rush by. So this is what's probably actually happened to the show. Is I've probably gotten tired of it. All right, here's a plant. This one is called, I think I called this one Jackie because my sister got it as a clipping from her friend Jackie. This one I planted, I made that little heart pot with Brian Mulder and Addie at my 12-hour house show. That one down there is the one that's barely surviving from Brian's mama. I wish it was doing better. There's two guys that made it through the frost. And this really adorable little fairy. What else? Ooh, this one was caught on my hair. Hello, buddy. And this one's so happy right now. That one's from my grandma. Well, my mom, via my mom. Little violets. This is another one from my mom, I think. I think this was the first one. This one we call Anna. Because it came from a plant from Stephanie's other friend, Anna. This is a bamboo, and one of the fake bamboos. He's not doing super well, but just got to trim those yellow ones off, I suppose. This is from my friend Ryan. And this is from myself when I was sad buying groceries with everything going on in the world right now. Another little clipping. That one's Sawyer. Let's find Sawyer's name. He wrote something on the side, but I don't know what it actually says. I suppose you're reading it all backwards. Vera, Pew Pew, or something. I don't know. Sawyer. Yeah. This is from my grandma. She had that when we were kids. What else? So, yeah, this is show and tell. I encourage you to do this too. You know, just kind of go around your space. You can live stream with people. We have a, my mom always had these like as a kid, I think. I remember one of these being in our bathroom. This might actually be the same one from when I was a kid, like a clipping of it. So it just kind of hangs and spiders all around. A little tiny thing. What else? Oh, I said I'd show my plants. That's art by our friend Ryan Wyrick. Plants. Where else are plants? No plants in here. Oh, here we go. Another bamboo. This one's not quite as happy. This one I call Stephanie, because I took a clipping of her spider plant even though I already had my own. And this one I can't remember what I called it or what kind of plant it is, but I got it at Home Depot, and I don't think it really likes me because I don't treat it like the princess that it probably is and needs to be. I think that's all my plants. I hope that's all my plants. I hope I'm not forgetting any. All right, so that's my show and tell for the day. I'm not the best plant mom. I think Michigan is just a very damp kind of area. There's high humidity here. And so I think I'm able to get away with not being the best plant mom here. But yeah, plants are fun. They're cute. They're good for air. That's show and tell. And there you go. There's my plants. All right, so we're going to go on to the next segment, the imaginary power segment. So I'm going to stop this so that I can easily put in the pictures of the title cards later. All right, bye. Okay, so imaginary power is a segment where I kind of try to teach people how to use their mind to change their mind, or use their mind to change their feelings even. So we've done a lot of different things. We've done random flying, imaginary exercises, vacations. We've talked a lot about heavy things in this segment as well. But for today, the thing I want to talk about is sending good thoughts out to people. So it is like imagining, like you're imagining good things for that person's future. It's kind of like prayer. And so anyone can do it. It doesn't matter what you believe. I guess all you would have to believe is that there is some value, even if it's just to yourself, in having positive thoughts about other people. And I should probably do this more. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to imagine, kind of bring a person into your mind. Any person. I'm thinking of one right now. And if you can't get your mind to really imagine them and imagine good things for them, then you can do it in your heart. That might even be better. Although this segment was supposed to be more about using your mind to really go somewhere. But some people, resentment blocks this and other things can block this. But if you kind of bring them into your heart and you think about that person and you kind of connect with your own heart and you just kind of imagine good things for them. And if specific things is too distracting for you, you could give yourself like a tangible action in your mind. Like imagine giving them a hug or imagine holding them. Like if they were crying or needed someone to listen to, just like imagine being there for them. And I just saw this exercise on an episode of a show all about the heart. And it said that we can breathe into our hearts. So you could even try that. Because we're trying to just send good thoughts. And really to send good thoughts to people, you have to have good feelings for the person too. I mean, you don't have to, but I think the universe and ourselves know kind of when we're faking it. And then I think whatever imaginary power we have just doesn't quite work the same. So trying to get yourself into the right frame of mind and feeling is kind of important if we're going to do this kind of work. So let's get into our right feeling. So if you need to, breathe into your heart. Just try to imagine that your breath is a little slower than usual, a little deeper than usual, and you're just breathing into your heart. And then as you do that, you can try to think really positive, uplifting thoughts for that person. And if you can't get there emotionally or mentally, you could start with thinking positive or uplifting thoughts for yourself. And if you can't get there, then you could even think of positive and uplifting things that you've read about in history, or things that have happened in your life, like something positive that's happened to you. You just try to bring that and maybe your appreciation of that, your gratitude, into your mind. And you don't have to keep a hand on your heart, but that might help you center it. And so that's how you can use your imaginary power to send good thoughts out to people. You can do it with lots of people. You can do it with one person. You can do it for 1 second. Or you could do it like a whole exercise. It doesn't really matter, but it does, I believe, matter that we as humans do this for each other. I think this is the antidote to anxiety. And it's something I know I need to work on. And so that's why I kind of made this show to teach myself these things, or to teach myself to bring these thoughts to mind every day, rather than just when I'm realizing I need it. I'm trying to, by creating the show, bring this stuff into my awareness more frequently. So I hope it's helping you too. Okay, next segment. All right, so time for the book report. It's time for the book report. All right, so today's book report, where did I leave it? I'm going to talk a little about a book called Real Magic, Creating Miracles in Everyday Life. Now, if you've never heard of Wayne W. Dyer, Dr. Wayne Dyer, you could literally just go on YouTube right now, skip anything else I would say, type in his name, and listen to some of his talks. He is very unlike me. He's an example of someone who I wish I was more like, and I've tried to learn to let go of that feeling, because it's not useful for me to wish I was something other than myself. But I've lived a lot of my life with a sort of imaginary belief that I was like some of these motivational speaker types. And instead, I'm actually far too introverted for something so external as to get out of myself and help you constantly. I am very overwhelmed at my inability to sort of hold my train of thought and hold my truth while I try to also use my truth to help or to share with you. So that's why this is my third to last JiTR and Rainbowland show, which I'm a little sad about because I've really enjoyed making this, and I enjoy thinking of different things to showcase, whether it's books that have meant a lot to me or cute things around the house or just different songs, different everything. It's been very enjoyable showcasing things, but I'm not a natural extrovert. I'm actually far more introverted. The fact that I never had a YouTube channel until I kind of half lost my mind due to politics, like I never really used it. I only started using it because I felt like I should be. And now I use it kind of as like a public journaling thing, but I also secretly hope no one comes and watches and or judges anything I do. So it's, it's an introvert on display, which is very different than like what a Wayne Dyer is. Like he is like a motivational speaker. Even in his books, he kind of comes alive in that sort of way. So I have a lot of admiration and almost envy that I try to work on now. Now that I've identified it, now I'm like, oh, dang it. I guess I'm not Mr. Rogers in Rainbowland or whatever I seem to want to be. I just get a little too overwhelmed at formats and formulas and formatting, which he's excellent at. He has very beautiful speeches, and he's very organized, and he seems very unaffected by his audiences. If you watch a video of him, he's just, he's that cool old grandpa who can tell stories for 2 hours, So anyway, he talks a lot about things that I believe in, and I'm just going to share a paragraph from this book. And yeah, there you go. I view my intuition about everything and anything as God talking to me. I pay attention when I feel something strongly, and I always go with that inner inclination. At one time in my life, I ignored it, but now I know better, and these intuitive feelings always, and I mean always, guide me in a direction of growth and purposefulness. Sometimes my intuition tells me where to go to write, and I follow, and the writing is always smooth and flowing. When I have ignored this intuition, I have struggled tremendously and blamed writer's block. I have come to not only trust that guidance in my writing, but to rely on it in virtually all areas of my life. And this is true for me too. I rely on feeling guided all the time. I just never would have said it out loud. Hence this show, which is pushing me out of my comfort zone. It's making me talk about things that I feel might be helpful, but I've always been afraid to talk about quite so directly. Other than burying them inside of like 20-minute long ramble videos that I assume no one's going to watch. I have developed a private relationship with my intuition, from what to eat and what to write, about how to relate to my wife and other family members. I meditate on it, trust it, study it, and seek to become more aware of it. That's true for me too. Seeking to become more aware of it. When I do ignore it, I pay a price, and then remind myself of the lesson to trust that inner voice the next time. I'm going to read one more paragraph. I wasn't planning to, but this part seems useful. I figure if I can talk to God and call it prayer, believing in such a universal divine presence, then there is nothing loony about having God talk to me. All the spiritual people I've read about share a similar feeling. Intuition is loving guidance, and they know enough not to ignore it. So, yeah, I used to feel really embarrassed of that concept, the idea of feeling sort of guided, and then I started noticing there's a lot of people out there who feel pretty guided. And if you go back in history, a lot of art and music and poetry and all kinds of things, people have cited feeling guided. And that's just part of the process for a lot of people. So, in my opinion, I don't think you're crazy if you've ever felt that kind of guidance or intuition. It might not be verbal, you might not be hearing words, but you might be just getting instincts. And if it feels like something divine or light or spiritual or holy or whatever word for you works for you, then it probably is that. Because, I don't know, we're all just grown-up kids. Like, I don't know. I think we have an inborn knowing, in a sense, when something is positive, loving, warm, giving, or when it's dark, heavy, sad, selfish, but not like selfish in the sense where you should feel guilty about your whole life, but like selfish as in like you can't get out of yourself and see how you relate to the bigger picture. There's a lot of subtle things that I think are trying to misguide us, you know, and guilt and selfishness and all of those I think are some of them. I don't think we're meant to just get so lost in ourselves. Even in the name of trying to be better people, we're not supposed to get lost in how we're falling short. Like, of course you're falling short. You're human. So, that is the book report segment. All right. Hello. Okay. So, we're on to the Feeling Your Feelings segment. Today's topic is love, because I brought up that on Friday. I brought that up and said that I would eventually come back to it, and then I haven't yet. The angle that I want to talk about it from is a kind of complex one. I believe that we're taught something about love that makes us associate pity with love, or like a heavy sadness for the world, like feeling bad for countries or feeling bad for, you know, whole segments of humanity, feeling bad for them and then associating that with love. And I just want to say today that I don't think that's love. In my opinion, love is light, it's buoyant, including self-love. Self-love doesn't pity ourselves. Self-love is not self-pity. That won't make you feel better. That won't heal your problems, self-pity. It will sink you further down into them. And similarly, I think for the collective. So I wrote down that love is not pity, guilt, negativity, or a black hole sadness for the world. I guess all I really want to say on that is I'm getting really lost in how I look lately. Sorry. Not taking as good of care of myself as I wish I was, but there's very few comforts in a time in history where we are quarantined. So not doing as good of a job with health and wellness and exercise and diet as I was doing. Moving on. That is not for you to pity me, and it's not for me to pity myself. It's just acknowledging that this is a side effect of that. It's not feeling as much enjoyment seeing how I appear. Also aging and life. Anyway, so love. Love, in my opinion, is a light feeling, and it is transcendent. And so if you have any situations in your life that you have been calling love, but they're actually really heavy and make you feel terrible. So, for instance, mine might be a societal one, like feeling bad for people who are in poverty, or people who have that don't have some of the privileges maybe that I have. That is, in my opinion, that's not love. That's closer to guilt. And that doesn't change my behavior usually. It changes my emotions sometimes, but usually without changing my behavior, because it's made my emotions so negative that now I'm not necessarily doing anything more for those people. I'm just generating negative emotions without changing my behavior, feeling worse about myself, feeling worse about those people, feeling worse about humanity, feeling worse about God, who would leave those people like that. But God needs us to do work, you know, like systems are very complicated, and like how we do or don't show up for people, in my opinion, a lot more would get done if we don't sit and bring our energy and our love and our light down so deep and into a hole that we become unfunctional. because now we feel depressed or we feel sad or we feel, and so it's not generating any positive like action versions of love in the world by just feeling heavy negative feelings and calling it love and believing that pity, that sorrow for humanity is love. It might be grief, but grief moves. So yeah, I would just encourage you to look at that and just ask yourself the things that you love. Ask yourself if you are thinking of the things and the people that you love with a feeling of light, with a feeling of something that moves upward. And if not, why not? And is it guilt? Because I talked about guilt in a past show. If it is guilt, then ask yourself if you can let go of that guilt, because you might actually be more functional and more loving, I think. And this is for myself too. I might be more functional and more loving if I can let go of that guilt for the ways that I don't show up for people and just focus on the ways that I do show up for people and keep adding one more and one more and one more thing wherever I can. And if I'm doing what feels like my max, then letting go of the guilt and letting that be enough. And then focusing again on that light. It's kind of like being a nun in a way, but it's a very practical application for it. It's like saying, I'm going to focus on positive thought and positive feeling for the people that I care about, and then expanding it outward as far as I can, and caring about the people that I care about, caring about the people that those people care about, and then out from there and out from there until your care, it's not heavy, it's just big, It's a light, but it's big. And if it starts to feel like pressure, and it starts to feel like guilt, and it starts to feel like pity, then that means maybe you're not caring about yourself enough. Like, you're in that equation. Who's out there caring about you? Like, maybe you do need to turn some of that love and light towards yourself. And so some of those negative feelings, I think, come from if we're sitting around feeling bad for other people, but we're not caring for ourselves, then maybe it's because our self desperately needs our attention and love, and we're not giving it to ourselves. So that's a little bit of what's been happening to me doing this live streaming. So that's why I'm stopping, because I'm realizing I need to care for myself, including going running, including talking with my sister more, and keeping my mind straight. So that's the feeling your feelings portion for today. Okay, this is the present. We're just going to get present. I've done this every day, so you don't really need me to coach you through it. So just get present. Take some deep breaths. Hear the birds. Hear the noises in your room. Look around at the colors. Imagine this is it. There's nothing else to see. There's nothing else to do. No more to do with your life. You just relax and you give into it. This moment. This is all there is. You're where you were supposed to be. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're learning what you're supposed to be learning. You know what you're supposed to know. You don't need to know any more than you know. You don't need to fix that cabinet or finish that project. You don't need to do those things that you thought you needed to do. You're on track. You're on schedule. You're on time. You're moving at the exact right pace. You're at where you're at. You're doing everything you needed to do. And the things you're not doing, you don't need to be doing. You're doing enough. You're doing the best you can. You've grown, you've changed, you've learned a lot in your lifetime. You've forgiven people that you could forgive. You've become a bigger and better version of yourself. You've gotten tired because you've done a lot, but what you've done is appreciated and it's been helpful. Everything you've needed to do, you've done, and everything you haven't done wasn't needed, or it would have been done. And there's things you maybe wanted to do, but you didn't need to do them. And it's useful for you to have learned that you didn't need to do them. And so right in this present moment, everything that needed to be has been and is. It all is. Everything that was, is. If it's in your mind, it is. It's in your mind as a memory, but that memory is. So the past isn't real except in how it is in your mind right now, which means it's in now. It's not past, it's now. It's in your mind now. It's only real in how it's in your mind now. So if things are only real in the story you're telling yourself now, if you tell yourself a positive or a good feeling story now about those things in the past, then you've recreated that past in your now. You've given it meaning in your now. And now it has a different meaning in your now. And by having a good meaning in your now, by telling yourself a story about it, like I needed to grow through that. I needed to learn that lesson. I needed to forgive that person. I needed to have that experience in order to learn this about myself. I needed to fail at these 10 or 20 or 40 different things. And by failing at all those things, I learned that I don't need those things. And as you learn those, as you retell that story to yourself, and you see those things that you could be telling yourself a sad story about, but instead you're telling yourself a moving, loving, heart-filled story like a Disney story. As you're telling yourself these things about your past, you literally are changing the imprint of that past, because the past isn't actually real. The thing that's real is the story you're telling yourself about it now. So the past is now, and the future is now. The story you tell yourself about the future is also now. So as you tell yourself a story about the future, if you tell yourself a story about the future that is loving, that things will work out for the best, that everyone's doing the best they can, if things are very, very hard right now in the world, which they are, but if everyone who's out there trying is doing the best they can, and even the people who are hiding and being selfish are doing the best they can because maybe they weren't emotionally prepared for this. Maybe they focused on other things and they're totally blindsided. And so now their selfishness is coming out. Then that's the best they can do. So if everyone's doing the best they can, and then even if there are people out there manipulating and being terrible, terrible human beings, and, you know, that's in a now or a future reality, then really you're not witnessing it. You're reading other people's stories. You're reading an article. If you are witnessing it, if you're seeing someone being terrible, then you can even reframe that as, well, that is in my experience and in my mind, that is a good reminder to me of who I want to be. So even witnessing somebody's horrific behavior can be turned into something that has a warm heart feeling. Like I here as this little soul am witnessing this behavior, and it gives me a warm heart feeling because that person was put in my path to help me remember who I want to be. You literally, you can, it's not fake. You don't have to pretend that that person being awful, right in your view, is a positive thing. You absolutely don't have to pretend that. Drunk drivers accidentally killing somebody, you don't have to pretend that that's positive. I don't believe in a God or a universe that pretends that that's positive. It's not that the event is positive. It's that you can learn positive things, warm-hearted things. You can feel warm-hearted things, like even grief can feel warm-hearted and remind you how much you care about your fellow man and how much you want to correct and edit and alter your behavior in care for your fellow man. And so when you witness these people doing horrible things, that horrible thing isn't what's warm-hearted. It's the lesson that you take from it that might feel warm-hearted. But you can always find one of those. And the reason I believe in this is because I saw many shows on this, the idea that you're your own medicine. Does it make you heal and be more useful to people by thinking about those things in a heavy, negative, sad, self-pitying, self-torturing way? How horrible the world is, how horrible people are. Do those thoughts rise you up and make you more functional and more helpful to others? Or do those thoughts make you feel horrible, and then you shut down more and more and more and more and more? And as you shut down more and more and more, and you're less useful and less helpful and less kind and less giving and less present, as you become less present, that teaches you that those types of thoughts don't serve you. Conversely, when you flip it around and you find a way to learn from all these things, and you find a way to honor the story that's unfolding in your life and through your skin and through your choices and through your weaknesses, and as that keeps happening and you honor it and you love it and you appreciate it and you feel grateful for the lessons that are unfolding through you and around you, then, you know, that's you writing your life in your now as something positive, as something useful, as something meaningful for you. And then when it's meaningful for you, that feels positive. And then as you feel positive, then you have more energy and love and light to give others. So there's your random meditation for the day on how to be in the present. I don't know. I hope that was helpful. Creative space, space, space. All right. Today, hold on. Today I'm going to be showing you just sort of how to make your own merch. I'm sure you can figure this out. But if you can't, or you just want some inspiration, the creative space segment, I used to write a song in front of you. I've been doing my songwriting more sacredly and separately for myself. That kind of helps me. So if you want to see some original songs, I think just go a little before this video. There's something called like Quarantine Songwriting Session. There's 3 of them. And then there's another thing called like Parked Car Thoughts, because I normally go on nature drives and like write songs and talk about life, but instead lately, to be respectful to humanity, I've been staying within walking distance of my home rather than like going far away and then needing gas in a town an hour from here. You know, I don't want to spread anything if I have it, and I don't want anything spread to me. You know, trying to social distance. Even teaching all my piano students virtually. So anyway, yeah, so I decided that the creative space segment would be more about the creative life. So for instance, like I make t-shirts. Sorry, I have something right here. I'm just eating a snack. Anyway, this is some merch. It's a t-shirt design that I made a long time ago. I showed you that, I think, on the day I did the rainbow cloud. But this is an example of, like, you know, a t-shirt. This one is a 2X. Let's see, this one's a medium of a different design. And so that's just something you can do. Like, this is a good example of just kind of like being yourself too, because like I just doodled whatever I wanted to inside this cloud when I wanted to update my design. And people liked it and they bought it, even though it was pretty weird. I mean, there's like, you are not your thoughts is inside of this, or ah, and we, and dream. I feel like I want to sneeze. What else? You can get stickers made. I use a company called Sticker Mule. These ones are the die cut stickers. Look for that, die cut. But again, you can make your own designs. I mean, you don't have to stick to all one design like I have. I also get buttons made with a company called Busy Beaver. And this is the Cosmic button, but I just have my little logo printed on that. Sticker Mule tried to sell me on their buttons, but I just don't like them. Sorry, Sticker Mule. They're not bad, I just don't like them as much. They look more basic to me. I'm not trying to judge, like they just aren't as interesting. Oh, my shirts are made by a company called Citizen Shirt, but pretty much any kind, just look up screen printing if you want this kind of like one color, kind of thick vinyl-y image. You can use other companies just online too. But Citizen Shirt is out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. But then here's more examples. This is... Sorry, I just thought this view was kind of beautiful and my phone just glitched out. Okay, coming back. Alright, last thing I'll show you was like a little sign for my merch station whenever I would play like live shows. I never sell very much, but it's just nice to have when I play like a show, like a house show, or like at a small venue. Like the biggest venue I played at is maybe like a 400 capacity. And that's the Pyramid Scheme in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Or I guess the Hideout in Chicago. But I think that's smaller capacity. It's just well known. But the last thing I wanted to show you for the creative space segment is just that I make little zines sometimes too. I learned this with an organization called Girls Rock Grand Rapids, and just in Grand Rapids in general, I just was really inspired seeing the kind of DIY spirit in the community. They often even say like DIT spirit. Songwriting is my BFF. And these are just things you can, just little stories. I'm going to go back to that one because I have a little bit of trauma around that one, and I'm going to share it right now. I wrote a zine, and I want to feel better about it. Songwriting is my BFF by Jessica Fogel, aka Jessica and the Rainbow. When I feel sad or mad or scared or lonely or confused, I can write about it. When I write, I can use rhymes, flow like poetry, and or sing what I write for myself in a recorder. When I listen to these songs and pieces of songs, a week or a day or a month or even a year later, I am comforted. Because sometimes I have grown. Or something that was feeling wrong or bad doesn't feel wrong or bad anymore. Sometimes I have gained a new perspective. It may seem like a small thing, but in my darkest times, and sometimes in my lightest, songwriting has been my BFF. I mean, I love my people friends too. So don't forget, make things, express yourself, and be your very own best friend. XOXO, Jessica and the Rainbow. And then I made one of those little hearts, me songs. So the trauma that I have around this zine is that I made it to teach a class, and then in that class I was very criticized. I had to teach it twice, and I was very criticized the moment before I started the second class by a different person in the room, and because it was 1 minute before I had to teach the next class. And I had taught classes like this with that organization before, like I had done one on writer's block, and they had been very well received before, and I taught this other one in this same way. Very teachery, very like leading by describing things, and just was very criticized in this one because of the age of the kids, or just because of you know, having less talking, less explaining, and more like a physical, tangible thing to do. But I had prepared this 90-minute workshop where the only thing to do really was to like punch holes, tie some strings, and we weren't even going to color them, but we added a coloring component just to give them something to do, and that's why some of these pages are colored in. But I will say, for my own self-love, and also to try to forgive and let go of that experience, because I do believe in that, there are just some things you won't be suited for. Like I was, for some reason in the previous years, when I had done like this songwriting workshop, or when I had done, what's the other one? Yeah, I had made this little chords zine for this same organization. Like I said, I made the writer's block one. For some reason in previous, oh, here's another one, yeah, keyboard basics. But for some reason in previous years, even though this songwriting is my BFF one, and I was trying to just engage the girls in like talking about their experiences with songwriting, and in previous years that had been looked at as a positive, and this past time, it was my last time running this workshop, and I was going to be done working with this organization anyway because I was very busy and it took a lot out of me to do that every year. But yeah, it just was a really uncomfortable experience for me, learning that I don't want to run workshops where there are other leaders who have very different opinions than me on what is useful in a group, how things resonate, just sort of different opinions on how to be a leader. And I'm a leader who shares a lot and tries to inspire through my experiences. And other leaders say 2 sentences and then just allow kids to just do their own thing. And I actually understand that approach. And as a kid, I got a lot out of those kind of hands-on things. Because then you just do your own thing. But then you're not necessarily learning from the leader in the room. You're learning from yourself and your peers and from getting to play and getting to do things. And obviously I love that because I love getting to play and getting to do things. So it's just different leadership styles. Like my leadership style is words related. And this year was when it became very clear that that was not what they wanted, even though in previous years it had been either fine or amazing. Like one of the two. Like I even taught a workshop on vulnerability one year and like talked with them about how to work through feelings. Journaling, I did one workshop on journaling and we even ripped stuff up. And so I just needed to share that for me in my creative space because this was a really traumatic experience for me to be told 1 minute before I had to lead another workshop that I needed to completely rewrite how I was doing the workshop, leave out all of the talking parts, the conversational parts, and just give them a task to do. Fold, punch 2 holes, tie with the string. Like, I was like, this is not what it was. So, yeah. And I say that to say, too, like, not to shame that person. I don't think they meant to hurt me. They were trying to change. I mean, I hope they discussed it among them, like, that changing something on somebody who's prepared something a minute before they do it, again, it doesn't really work. But also, it's just, I guess what I need to say in the creative space about that is you're not going to fit everywhere. You're not going to belong everywhere. And there are going to be some places where you're going to want to belong that you don't belong. And you can stay your whole life, which is actually why I was planning to have it be my last year. That was my secret reason. I told outwardly that it was because I was getting busy. But my secret reason was that I wasn't identifying with those people anymore. And I was feeling year after year a growing resentment that no matter how much I put into that community, that I didn't feel the same love back at me for anything about myself. Even if I started an entire festival to try to attract and interest those people in me and my world. And it just didn't work. So if you're having to chase after a community of people, they might not be the right community of people for you. You might not be a person who attracts a broad community. You might be a person who attracts a few random misfit souls. That's been a very hard lesson for me to learn. And so creative space is also about, you know, you're creating your life. Your mind is creating your life. Your work is creating your life. Your passions and your interests are creating your life. And as you create your life, part of creating, and this has been one of the most painful things for me, part of creating is letting go. Like, this is a tender, vulnerable little zine. And there should have been no reason to kind of, just because I'm a rambler, you know, and they were talking back too, but it's like, I don't think it was just that. I think it's just, there are some communities where this much tenderness and this much heart on your sleeveness and this much awkwardness is not the right fit. Because maybe those communities are about being a badass and being tough. And not feeling all sensitive and you learn to speak up to each other and you embrace conflict and you resolve it. But it's like, for some people, that tone is aggressive and almost feels like it's creating inner conflict, and it makes certain types of people like shut down and get as quiet as they can so that they don't piss off the ones that are the badasses. And it's like, it's not resolvable. I don't mean to say that to be mean. Like, the resolution sometimes is, if you're a little duck or a duckling or a goose or I don't know the story, whatever, is to float away and go find a different community. Like, if you're a grizzly bear, like, the little ducklings shouldn't hang out with you. Like, it is not, like, coexist doesn't mean coexist in the same room. So, creative space, create your space, create communities where you feel safe, create communities where you feel useful. That's part of it too. I didn't feel useful in that community. I felt overlooked or ignored all the time, or like my skill sets weren't being used. I feel that way a lot of times in the music scene around here, and that's nobody's specific fault. It's just, you know, seek out places where you feel useful, and if you don't know where they are, then create them. And if you still don't know where they are, maybe move. I have no idea, you know, but pay attention to your inner compass. It's trying to guide you. It's trying to talk to you, and that's how you create your life. You create your space. You create your world. You can create. Yeah, I'm feeling a little darker than usual today because some of my usual triggers are up right now. And they're loud, and they're ways that, you know, there's a particular music zine that shared like 15 things, and it's mostly men, and it's like stuff like that, and it's or it's mostly like funny, or mostly just things that aren't me, in ways it's just reminders and affirmations. You don't belong, or if you're different, you're different. And it's exhausting, and it makes me want to like just check out. So it's hard for me to be like, yay, go live a creative life, when I'm feeling very discouraged by what the world or what the people around me are looking for. It makes me want to go be in a different creative community and just cut ties and be done. And I don't know. I don't feel that way about everyone around here, but maybe the things I'm noticing right now, because of the things I'm choosing to engage in, I'm seeing them reflected back to me, those things, and I need to remember not to engage with the things that make me feel that way. Like, I have to just let them go, like straight up let them go. And that really is a huge part of creativity. The reason last year was so painful for me is I've always been a very yes person, and last year I started saying no constantly. So, yeah. And you can too. No, I don't know. I don't know what the lesson is there. All right, well, this is going to be messed up because now my next segment, it's hilarious what I wrote down. So let me push that up. Okay. For the next segment, spiritual stuff. Oh, spiritual stuff. I actually wrote down positive, joy focus. We become what we focus on. And I was just rambling at you some really negative crap. So I guess what you could ask yourself is, how did it make you feel when I went from being a person that cared about being uplifting to being a person who just ranted negatively about dozens of people? Like, I wasn't trying to. I just feel so left out and so ignored and so undervalued and so unappreciated and so unneeded in this area. Maybe musicians feel this way all over the world. And if I could focus on that, like, wow, I'll bet what I'm feeling is just a human experience of someone who's put a lot of time and life into something that they loved and then realized it just really isn't needed. I think that's partly just being a local level or a regional, not even regional, a small area, maybe a state level type musician, you know, like, yeah, I'm known in different areas in Michigan by some people, but not that many. But maybe that's just a sad feeling that happens to people who don't make it. And maybe that's a universal feeling, and maybe if I could feel love in my heart for all the people who've ever felt this, ignored, unloved, unappreciated, undervalued, small, insignificant, unnecessary, all those feelings. And if you can realize, and this is to me, if I can realize that so many people, probably millions of people have felt this way, have thought they had more in them. As a kid, they thought they could be something. I have sad songs about this. Maybe it felt like a pressure, and so they let go of that pressure. But when you let go of that pressure, you've also let go of the result. Like just this last summer, I let go of the pressure to try to be something anymore. I was stopping pushing little posters from all these different things that worked out. You know? And I finally hung those up because I'm like, well, what are they around here for? They're very pretty art. I just want to be able to... So, yeah. Last thing I'll say about that is that I think I forget to identify with all the millions or billions of people before me who've lived and died without being known. I forget to identify with most of humanity on this topic. It being unknown or underappreciated or undervalued or having not very many people watching your work or caring about your work. Like, I'm not doing that for other people enough, I'm sure. And so they probably feel like their talent is wasted too. And maybe a lot of people don't work so hard like I did for 20 years to try to get a collection of skills. And so maybe it's less painful for them. And maybe it's more painful for me because for 20 years, all that work I did was to get these skills that now it sometimes feels like not very many people could care less about. And when I feel that way, when I get lost in that, that's self-pity. That's what I was talking about before. That's not loving myself. That's not loving yourself. That's feeling sorry for yourself. It's feeling bad for yourself. It's feeling pity. And why would I feel bad for myself? So many of my needs are met. I have a lot of love. I have a lot of people in my life who care about me. And there's a lot of people on this planet that I care about. Why would I feel bad for myself? Just because I have all these skills that I didn't end up using? I could say it differently. I could say I have all these skills that I didn't end up having to use. Because having to use your skills is hard work. Having to go make movies like some actors do for 12 hours a day. Having to create scores. Having to file paperwork for your rights to your songs. Having to do all this work. You know, I didn't end up having to do all that work. I have all this music theory knowledge in my brain, and people pay me money to sit down with me, even lately virtually, and I impart music theory knowledge to them. And I give them assignments, and I can't even think of things to give them half the time, or we just follow books that other people wrote. I'm not paying royalties on those people who wrote those books. Did they do all that work for nothing? No. I mean, everybody's doing work. Everybody's underappreciated. Like, I'm not even doing that much work because I'm work adverse. And because I'm not that into doing work, I don't even want to do this show more than 3 more times because it's so much work to make something that has segments. I don't know how I would edit it. I don't even know what parts I would edit out if I tried to make it condensed or try to make it fit a certain time or format. I don't know how to do any of that. And even if I did know how to do it, I wouldn't want to do that much work. So why am I like... Okay, so that's an example. Sorry, my phone it's full. That's an example of how you can use your own awareness of truth to change how you feel. And the thing that's the lie is probably how you feel. If you're feeling sorry for yourself, that could be a lie. Because reality is you should feel sorry for everybody in that scenario, not just you. But your lower mind or your lower qualities are wanting to get you to feel bad for yourself. But your higher qualities want to feel love and light and positivity about it. Okay, we should go on to the next segment. I'm going to let this keep running, but the next segment is your body and mind. I kind of, that summed up at the end, positivity. You don't want to feel positive about it. You just want to feel truth and identification about it, and that can generate love and light. And anyway, your body and mind. Next segment, your body and mind. So, your body and mind, pick a body part. You know, you've seen this episode, this show. Oh my gosh. Blah. Here we go. I'm scanning my body to see which body part wants to talk to me. Okay, I'm getting top of the head today. It says that I feel light. You feel light, you feel good. It's weird. Yeah, I'm like letting this show go as I do this show. Yeah, like as I do this show, I'm realizing why I don't want to keep doing this show past 3 more episodes. Like, I've done what I needed to do, I've said what I needed to say, but it's very hard for me to organize myself, and that's okay. The top of my head is kind of saying, and that's okay. It's like giving it away to God. Like, hey God, I tried. Like, this is too hard for me. It's too much pressure. And I think it's hard to realize that just because you feel things inside that, or because other people have compared you to somebody, like a Mr. Rogers or anything like that doesn't mean you can handle the same pressures that they can. And that's okay. The top of my head just keeps saying, and that's okay. Like, I'm trying, and this was my attempt, and it's the best I could do. And that's okay. All right, we're gonna go do a song. All right, song time. This song is called All I Have, and it's off my newest release. It's a very lo-fi album called Strange Beginnings. It's just learning to allow myself to be lo-fi, and those who like and need it, they can enjoy it. And when I want to and have the time free to produce something and it feels right for a collection of songs, I will do that. But otherwise, I'm allowing myself to move forward as lo-fi as I naturally am and as unrefined, and I'm letting it be okay. All right. Oh, I started wrong. Here you go. Actually really hard. I wasn't expecting it to be, but I got stressed out. I didn't want to make a mistake because I don't have a pedal, so I had to choose fingers that would hold things, and if I needed to change it, I had to get it right. You can't, when you have a pedal like on a piano, you can get things wrong, and or you can hesitate and the pedal's holding the chord out, and it's okay. I'm just gonna play the closing theme song on here today. Just kidding. How does it go? I'll put it on a sound I like. Not that I didn't like that one, but that one goes with that song. No. Back to you. All right. Thanks for being here. All right. Oops. That's my keyboard. 1, 2, 3. The wild can be your friend. Ooh, 2 out of 2. Nope, you know what? I'm sticking with it because I have to teach a lesson in like 3 minutes. The world can be your friend. There's no reason why it can't. The world can be your friend. All you have to do is take its hand and sing. And sing. And sing. And sing. See you tomorrow. Have a good day.